नमामि धन्वन्तरिमादिदेवम् सुरासुरैर्वन्दितपादपद्मम् लोकैर्जरारुभय मृत्युनाशम् धातारमीशं विविधौषधीनाम्.
According to the 2019 National Diabetes and Diabetic Retinopathy Survey released by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the prevalence was found to be 11.8% in people over the age of 50 years. The prevalence of diabetes is 6.5% and pre-diabetes is 5.7% among the adults below the age of 50 years, according to the DHS survey. Despite of many advances in healthcare management systems, the prevalence is increasing. So the question comes, do we need any change in healthcare management of Ayurveda, the Indian system of medicine, to have rich heritage of prevention and management of diseases and preservation of health? Considering the need of the hour to update the ancient text Charak Samhita, we are continuously working on our website Charak Samhita Online to cater the need of scientific community. Dr. Supriya Bhalerao, scientist Irsha, proposed to organize this unique session on Ayurveda and diabetes as a part of National Ayurveda Day celebrated on 13 November and World Diabetes Day celebrated on 14 November recently. Now I request Dr. Supriya Bhalerao ma'am to welcome the guest and share opening remarks.
Thank you, Yogesh. Good evening and welcome you all to the program on Ayurveda and diabetes. At the outset, I wish you all a very happy National Ayurveda Day. The Ministry of Ayush has announced the theme of this year's Ayurveda Day as Ayurveda in 2030. And when we are talking about Ayurveda 10 years ahead, it is unavoidable to consider diabetes, which is a global health burden and in which India has already been called as a diabetic hub or diabetic capital of the world, with continuous rise of diabetic patients. Coincidentally, this year, the National Ayurveda Day, which is celebrated on Dhantrayodashi, and the World Diabetes Day fall on consecutive days, that is 13th and 14th November 2020. So we decided, as such, our lab celebrates both these days every year because being an Ayurveda scientist, Ayurveda researcher working in diabetes, we celebrate both these days at our lab. And considering that these 2 days fall on consecutive 2 dates, so we decided that this year we should celebrate these 2 days together. This year is a year of COVID-19 pandemic, and there is no doubt that the COVID has proved disastrous to whole world. But at the same time, the crisis has brought many new things to us. And one of the things which that pandemic has taught us is online training, online teaching, online meetings. And because of this, we could celebrate this day on a larger scale involving experts from various parts of the country, not only country, but Basishta sir is with us from USA also. So this year, the day is being both these days are being celebrated on a large scale, I must admit. When I approached Basishta sir with a concept like we should discuss on integrative diabetes, he wholeheartedly supported it. Then we approached, after his consent, Dr. Vaishali Deshmukh, who is like a friend, well-wisher and guide for our lab. It is always said that whenever we approach modern medicine physicians or the researchers, they look for some herbs or some drugs from Ayurveda. But Dr. Vaishali is a unique person. I must admit that she is even collaborating with us on concepts from Ayurveda. Like we are working on Prakruti concept and its prevalence in metabolic syndrome. So there also she is, wholeheartedly supporting this concept, supporting this theme and working with us. Then we approached the Endocrine Society of India president and the immediate past president, Dr. Sanjay Kalera, I am sure that those who are working in the area of diabetes must have read his editorials and his articles, and he has beautifully written even on karma concept and how this karma concept is applicable to diabetes, the philosophical aspects, and you can find in his writings about Ayurveda, about Atreya. So it was quite fascinating, and then because of that, I thought that we should involve the Endocrine Society of India also in this venture. But Dr. Sanjay Kalra is busy in some of the meetings, his prior commitments. And fortunately, the newly elected president of Endocrine Society of India, who has taken charge today only, has also accepted our invitation to join. And this shows that Endocrine Society of India is also welcoming Ayurveda, and they also look forward to the solutions from Ayurveda to combat this disease burden. So with this, I request Yogesh to help us to play that video.
Welcome to Obesity Diabetes Lab, Interactive Research School for Health Affairs, Bharati Vidyapeeth deemed to be University Pune. Our lab is a unique blend of Ayurveda experts and basic scientists, and so we conduct both clinical and experimental studies in obesity, prediabetes, diabetes, and associated conditions like NFLD, PCOS, etc. In the domain of clinical research, we undertake sponsored and investigator-initiated studies on herbal formulations, nutraceuticals, and therapeutic procedures. My work is to coordinate various aspects of clinical trials, ranging from designing a study, formulating study-related documents, seeking ethics committee approvals, registering a trial with CTRI, maintenance of site master file, conduct of a study in accordance with standard guidelines, and archival of documents.
The experimental work of our lab include biochemical assays such as enzyme inhibition and advanced glycation end product assay, cell line and animal study. I am particularly focusing on glucose and lipid metabolism in rat model of obesity and diabetes, wherein we are study the effect of herbal formulation at biochemical and molecular level for the reversal of pathophysiological changes.
Upcoming evidence suggests a close link between metabolic derangement and psychiatric conditions. My current work is focused on neurocognitive disabilities associated with metabolic syndrome, under which we are studying association of cognitive impairment observed in obesity and diabetes, its underlying mechanism, and evaluation of herbal drug interventions in cell line and animal studies. In future, we also wish to study impact of psychiatric conditions on weight gain and insulin resistance.
My research interests to study the microbiota from different anatomical sites and in association with the diabetes and obesity. Further, we are studying the effect of herbal intervention on dysbiosis. We have completed our first study on effect of buttermilk enema on gut microbiota of obese individual. In our next project, we are trying to study the oral microbiota in a patient with diabetes and the dental conditions such as periodontitis. We offer a student internship and short-term projects for the duration of 6 months to 1 year. We also conduct various social outreach activities such as informative academic talks from subject experts, community screening for identifying the cases of prediabetes, diabetes and metabolic syndrome, community awareness programs such as Walk for Diabetes. Our lab organizes a training program and workshop through which we aim to build a capacity in integrative medicine. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Yogesh.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. It's my privilege to introduce Dr. Mandeep R. Goyal, who is Associate Professor, Department of Kai Chikitsa, Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda, Jamnagar, India. She holds a vast professional and research experience of 19 years. She has published 103 research papers and articles in various international and national journals of Ayurveda. She has contributed 17 chapters in various books or e-learning content programs of the Institute. She is having a vast research experience also, and she has been an investigator, principal investigator and co-investigator 8 research projects, including important Ayurgenomics project in collaboration with the CSIR. She is the executive editor of AYU, an international quarterly peer-reviewed journal of research in Ayurveda, IPGT and RA Jamnagar. She is also involved as principal investigator coordinator in WHO Collaborative Center activity in IPGT-RA Jamnagar. She is also the coordinator of Ayurvedic Standard Treatment Guidelines and various clinical training programs, short-term introductory courses on Ayurveda for international students, TOT, ROTP, CME, and national workshops conducted in IPGT-RA. She is the most energetic personality in IPGT-RA. Now I request you, ma'am, to deliver your speech on concept of diabetes in Ayurveda.
First of all, I thank you. I thank the team. I thank the team of IRSHA and Charak Sanhita Research Training and Skill Development Center, which is being associated with ITRA. Now, I will be using the name ITRA because we have been just designated as ITRA, that is Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda, and it is our new Namkaran Sanskar with new and today, especially when we are here at a platform where we are trying to bring together the scientists from the Ayurveda field and modern field, I appreciate the effort of the IRSHA and Charak Sanhita Center for thinking of this, because though from the last few months we are talking about COVID-19, we are trying with many researches, many clinical trials, we are searching for the drug, we are trying to find out the management of COVID-19. And in between of that, we are a little bit away from the thinking of non-communicable diseases. But when we talk either of COVID-19 or we talk about diabetes mellitus, one thing remains very common between these two conditions. That is, prevention is only the first line of treatment, or prevention is only the solution for these diseases. And specifically when we are talking about COVID, the second thing which have come out from the findings of the work or the researches which have been carried out, or from the clinical experiences of various physicians globally, that diabetes is again one of the biggest hurdle in the management, and the cases of diabetes specifically are at high risk for the complication, and the mortality rate is also high in the cases of diabetes. So it is the time where we should think of something, not only for thinking of the best treatment for the diabetes, or thinking only for how we can manage diabetes together, either using the traditional medicines or the principles of Ayurveda, or so much advanced medical modern facilities which is being available. The problem is that diabetes is known to the humanity maybe thousands of years back when Charak or Shukra Samhita was written. And from that time till date, there is no decrease in the number of the patients of diabetes, and day by day the number of the patients are increasing. So, two things are needed at this time. One thing, to think how we can prevent this diabetes, and secondly, how we can diagnose the diabetes in a very early phase, or in the conditions now which is being termed as a pre-diabetes. And then if it is being detected, what can be the management by which we can either reduce the complication or try to manage it in a very effective way. So with this thinking, I would start my work, which is being diabetes in Ayurveda, the topic which was given to me. And also there was an instruction from the organizers that I should not go too much in the Sanskrit part or too much details in the references of Samhita. So in a very simple manner, I will try to convey the information or convey the details of diabetes which are available in our text, and how it is so similar to the description of the diabetes which is available now in the modern medicine. Next slide, please, Gurjeet. So from today's presentation, we will be talking about what are the causes, pathophysiology of Prameha and Madhumeh, the conditions which are nearly similar to the presentation of the diabetes, and once we are able to find out the causes and the pathophysiology, we have to know how we make a diagnosis on the basis of various phases and stages and presentations of this disease, and accordingly how we start the line of treatment or manage it. And ultimately, when we are able to make an approach from Ayurveda point of view, what are the probable conditions where we can at least make an integrative approach in the management of Madhumeh or the diabetes for effective management. Next, please. Now, when we talk about the diabetes in Ayurveda, I will be using the word diabetes instead of Prameya and Madhumeh. It is a disorder which has been related to Basti, or it has been related to urinary system. And whenever there is any changes of the urinary system, as per our text, there are two presentations, or there will be two conditions which will be resulting out of it. One be a condition where there will be changes in the urinary system or urinary tract, which is being termed as Mutra Srotas in Ayurveda. It will be resulting into a presentation of patients will be coming with the complaint or the complications of reduced output of the urine, and that is being termed as the conditions like dysuria or conditions of renal calculus, or all the conditions which are related to the chronic renal conditions. And the other presentation is where the patient will come with the presentation of increased output of urine. That is the frequency or the quantity, or together frequency and quantity of the urine output will increase. And those conditions of the urinary tract, as per Ayurveda, they are termed as Prameha, of which Madhumeha, which is very similar to the presentation of diabetes mellitus, is a type. So, first going towards the description of Madhumeha, little bit of thinking of how we diagnose about the cases of Prameha. So, next slide please. The diagnosis of Prameha, it is totally dependent on the urine examination as per our text. And so, one is the complaint of the patient where he is being coming with the conditions like polyuria, or it is frequent urination with increased or excess quantity of urine. It will be taken as it can be taken as the first point to go for the diagnosis of the Prameha. Next. And when we say it is a presentation where there is excessive urination, as per the Ayurveda text, it is not only just the changes of the urinary tract system. There are other factors which get involved with this. It is the vitiated cough and the mate, that is the vitiation of fat and fat metabolism. Along with this, the presentation now will be there due to either the defect in the urinary system, which will be resulting due to the changes in the filtration rate or the reabsorption. And because of that, the large amount of filtrate will come out in the form of dissolved urine, in the form of content which will be dissolved in urine, resulting into the excessive urination. Or there can be a presentation where the renal threshold may have changed, and because of that, though the content in the body are in the normal conditions or are at normal levels, still they are being excreted out in the form of the excessive urine. Like one of the presentations which is being mentioned in our book as a part of the Kapha Prameha, which is called as the Ikshu Meha. It has been said it is a condition where the patient will pass out of urine, which is very similar to the appearance of the sugarcane juice. That is, it is indicating towards excess of glucose or excess of sugar being excreted out in the form of urine, or it is maybe in the excess urine. So there also it is indicating towards it may be a defect in the change renal threshold. And second condition will be that where maybe there is no direct changes in the urinary system, that means there is a normal status of the urinary system, but there is excess of waste or metabolites which are being generated due to the defects somewhere in the systems or the tissues of the body, and that extra metabolites are being excreted out along with the urine. So it may be again presenting with the different presentation of urine with the increased frequency and quantity. So, in brief, we can understand the Prameya is a condition in Ayurveda where excessive urination is the diagnostic picture with the various types of metabolites or various types of excretory products being given out in the urine. And depending next slide, and depending upon the excretory products or the products which are being given out, there will be different appearance and the color of the urine. Now, this is the slide which is giving in reference that there is some relation between the obesity, the adipose derived factors, which may increase the renal plasma flow or it may increase the glomerular filtration rate, which later on may increase the filtration fraction and may stimulate the sodium and water reabsorption in tubule, and as a result of that, there may be a dilatation of the glomerular afferent arterioles, which may lead to the increased GFR, and this hyperfiltration may be now responsible for the excessive urination or excessive formation of urine with the various metabolites which have generated these type of changes in the tubules of the kidney to present in the form of excessive urination. Next slide. So, as I have already discussed that though the frequency and quantity is important, but along with that also there will be various presentation of the urine depending upon the dosh, the dhatu or the factors which have generated this condition. And so depending on the change in the color and the contents of the urine, the appearance variation, and then typical odor of the urine which is being given out because of the combination of these waste in the urine, there will be various changes in the presentation of the urine. So not only on the basis of increased frequency and the quantity, plus what are the changes in the appearance, whether it is a turbid urine or it is a very clear urine or it has got different colors or the shades, it will be diagnosed as a different presentation of Prameya, and accordingly it will be given the nomenclature or name or the type, and then it will be the line of treatment or the specific treatment which will be decided on the basis of the reference which we are seeing from the Shushruth down. It is saying that as there are three basic colors, and these three basic colors when combined in different proportion, there are various colors which are being produced. Similarly, here also, when there will be various factors which will be responsible for the whole pathogenesis of this disease, and depending upon the combination of these factors, there will be the different shades or different presentation in the urine which is being voided by the patient. Next. And the other reference which also indicate that when the color of the urine it becomes normal and the appearance it also nearly becomes clean, it is an indication that patient has been treated or patient has been able to get cured of the Prameya. So ultimately, when we look the diagnosis of Prameya, which includes diabetes, it is mainly based on the presentation of the various features of the urine. Next. So, when we talk diabetes from modern point of view, there is a detailed pathophysiology of the diabetes, and then the detailed pathophysiology, it indicates that somewhere there is a role of the lipid metabolism or fat metabolism, and then along with that there are certain changes in the beta cell, or there is certain changes in the insulin and insulin resistant condition it is being generated, and ultimately it comes into the presentation of the diabetes. Now, when we look at from the Ayurvedic point of view, there are certain causes of the diabetes of Prameya which are being mentioned. They are chiefly coming with the change of faulty life and the diet, and that along with that, three doshas which are named as Vata, Pitta and Kapha, which are considered as the functional unit of the body, along with the 10 dosha, which are the factors which are getting involved with these three dosha, there will be various presentation, and so we can say that the causes along with the three dosha and then the 10 dosha and the amount or the number of the doshas which are getting involved with this dosha will again come in the form of 20 presentations, which are called as the 20 types or 20 presentations of prameha. Next. And they are being termed as Kapaj Prameha, Pittaj Prameha, and Vatar Prameha. Why I am talking to all these things, it is just to get a thinking that when we are talking about the diabetes, it can be a presentation of Prameha, but typically not a Prameha, but of a Vataj Prameha, of what one variety it is called as the Madhumeha. And that Madhumeha, as the name itself is being indicating that it is a Meha. Meha means it is a urine which has become Madhu. Madhu, it means it has got the characteristics or the features which are similar to the Madhu or honey. So it is called as Madhumeha. Next. And these are the names what I was talking about, the 10 types of Kapaj Prameha. So the names, when we are reading it is in Sanskrit, it is just indicating towards the characteristics or the features of the urine. Depending upon that, it has been given name. Like the word Udaka Meha, which has been given. Udaka means water. Meha means urination. So when the patient is voiding urine, which is just nearly similar to that of water, means it is as clear and it is having specific ability nearly like water, it is called as Udak Meha. Similarly, it is a presentation like Shukla Meha. Shukla Meha, it is a Meha, again urination, where the patient is giving out a urine which is nearly milky white or white. So again, this is like urination has increased, and along with that urination, the causes which has initiated this frequency, increased frequency and quantity, it will decide the presentation of the urine. So depending because it is a cup predominant conditions and it is being involved due to the factors or the properties which are similar to the Kapaj disease. So the presentation, it will be 10 types named on the basis of the characteristics of the urine which is being voided. Next. Similarly, it will be the Pittaj presentation, which is of 6 types. Here the color nearly goes towards the red, blue, black, and it is again the various features which are related to some of the enzymatic changes or related to some of the defects which are responsible for production of heavy metabolites, and these metabolites again give the various color to the urine. Next. And then it is the Vataj Prameha, which is of 4 types. The last one which we were discussing in the previous type is called as a slide, it is Madhumeha, or sometimes even it is called as the Shaudra Meha. It is going towards the presence of hyperglycemia or glycosylation. So hereafter we will be trying to discuss about what is Madhumeha, that is nearly similar to the diabetes. Next. Now, when we look at the presentation or the diagnostic picture or the description of the Madhumeha which is being given in the Ayurvedic text, 3 things have been given for its diagnosis. One is the increased frequency and quantity of urination, which is nearly similar to the term Prabhuta Mutrata. And then along with that, Madhura Mutra and Madhurutam, they are the 2 terms which are being again added along with this increased frequency, which is giving towards the increased sweet conditions of either the urine and also that of the body, which is nearly similar to the conditions of hyperglycemia, or it is the presentation hyperglycemia along with the glucose, excessive of glucose being excreted out in the urine, and which may, as per the modern, resulting due to either the absolute or the relative deficiency of the insulin. Next. Now, when we talk about the causes for Prameha from Ayurvedic point of view, and it can be also taken as the cause of Madhumeha, because as per Ayurveda, the causes for Madhumeha, in one of the presentation, it is nearly all the factors which are increasing the fat inside the body, and that fat increasing factors ultimately they involve the vata, and along with this, then it comes as a presentation of a Vatik Prameya or it is Madhu. So here also this is taken as the general causes of any types of Prameya which is being presenting in the either form of the Kapha or Pitta or Vata. There, two factors are very strongly being accepted that there is a conditions which are all going towards a very high calorie diet, which may come in the form of guru, snigdha, etc. And with that, no physical exercise. And somewhere there is also thinking of the sahaj means there is a genetic predisposition and also some psychological factors when they are getting involved. Together, when these factors, they initiate the pathogenesis of diabetes as per Ayurveda. Next. It is also now accepted that whatever we are talking in the sense of excessive diet, which is full of maida or fat, this excessive fat now, if it is not metabolized properly or it is being a condition where patient is prone for the deposition of excesses of adipose tissue in the body, as we say, it may be specifically in tough predominant person or in a person with a pit where there are chances of some genetic or enzymatic changes, may present with excesses, production of excess fat inside the body, and this excess fat will now start getting stored in various parts of the body, and ultimately, along with this, it may go towards a condition of insulin resistance, which may produce hyperglycemia in the later stages, and also not only the diet factors, also there are the factors which are being related to the lifestyle. Specifically, when we talk in Ayurveda, we talk about the sleep as a very important factor for maintaining the health, and excess sleep, specifically in the form of day sleep, it is being contributed as one of the important factors in the pathogenesis of the disturbed fat metabolism. So, along with these diet factors and the sleep changes, it is being now also accepted there are certain metabolic changes, and this produces it initiates the condition of the pathogenesis of Prameya or Madhumeh or diabetes as per Ayurveda. Next. So this is again a schematic diagram which is again showing that there may be a condition where due to either of the faulty lifestyle or due to the other factors, if there is too much of taking of food which is specifically having excess of animal fat, and like we say it is amut, mounts, etc. And then there are a set of genes which are already there which are responsible for extra adipose tissue, insulin resistance, etc. Somewhere slowly there will be either the changes in the beta cells, that is called as the beta cell regeneration, or there will be a condition which will be resulting into the insulin resistance, and ultimately it will come into the condition where the patient will start showing the changes of disturbed fat metabolism, and also it will be presented as excessive glucose in the blood, and so it will go towards the presentation of Madhumeh. Next. So ultimately, what all we have discussed in the last slide, it is saying anything which causes the beta cell dysfunction or insulin resistance is the actual cause of type 2 diabetes, and whatever factors we have discussed earlier from Ayurveda point of view, they also nearly come to these points where ultimately due to excesses of fat or disturbed fat metabolism, that is the maida and the kapha, along with the other factors, they generate these changes or these pathogenesis inside the body, and it starts with the presentation of the purva root or the premonitory sign and symptoms, which may later on convert into the diabetes. Next. So this is one of the important aspects of Ayurveda, where it is talking about that when these changes, what we were discussing, the long faulty lifestyle, the long habits of the food, if they are going on and other factors are also being favorable and they are helping for this, maybe before starting with the actual presentation of the diabetes, patient may go into a phase of showing the signs which are indicating towards excess of fat inside the body, and it may be expressed into certain characteristics which may vary from individual to individual depending upon their property, depending upon their cause or the other factors. But these are indication that slowly in the next few months or years, specifically if the patient or the person has got the positive family history of these types of diseases, may convert into a case of diabetes mellitus or in the case of Promega. So this is the important thing now we are considering and taking it as the premonitory conditions of the Promega. Now we are now also talking like pre-diabetes in the modern field. So if we are able to judge or we are able to define the patient in this case, depending upon his food habits and these symptoms he is being suffering, and then if we are able to go for the blood sugar types of blood sugar diagnosis or the examination, we may be able to catch the patient in this condition. And if we start the treatment or the preventive aspect, the patient will not be converting to this diabetes mellitus. So when we are talking about this part, it becomes very important in the management of diabetes, typically in the today's conditions of the society. Next. And so our text says that if the person has symptom and along with that he starts the condition of frequent urination, that is polyuria, and also there is one reference that there are certain changes in the body where patient is indicating towards a high lethargy state. It is being on one reference in the Sushruta, it says that the person starts preferring of standing instead of walking or sitting at one place, and later he's trying to just lie down in a condition where he does not want to do any type of physical activities. These are all the signs of the future changes of diabetes. And so if we are able to judge the patient in this condition, maybe we can start the line of treatment, which may be as a preventive aspect of the Madhumeh or the diabetes. Next. Now, when the patients of diabetes will come, as per our text, there may be two different presentation of the diabetes, and depending upon the presentation of the diabetes, there will be the deciding of the line of treatment. The first presentation, as per Charak, it is called as the presentation with the obesity and the characteristics of the diabetes. So it will be obese diabetic, and other one it will be non-obese diabetic. When it will be obese diabetic, the presentation or the condition, it will be all the what we have discussed in the last slide, right from the diet, lifestyle, the cough frequency, all such factors will be there. And these patients will be having all the symptoms of weight or fat metabolism defects along with the increased body fat, and as the diabetes, they will be termed as the stool one or the obese one, and quite opposite to that, there will be no signs of fat deposition. Still, they are coming as a presentation of the diabetes. They will be termed as non-obese. And the line of treatment of these two, they will be very different as per Ayurveda. And the second one, it is like called as the Sahaj. Sahaj, it is like which is having a very strong genetic predisposition. Now it is called as the type 1 diabetes, where there is a chances of autoimmune or a total absence of the beta cells. This is the type 1 diabetes, and these patients usually will be having the presentation of non-obese. And the second one is the Apathya Nimitaja, that is like a person who has been not following the proper lifestyle and the diet, and as a result of that, he has gone towards the excessive of fat and has converted into now obese, or with obesity with the diabetes, it will be called as the type 2 or the Apathya Nimitaja type of presentation. Next. So this is just the repetition of the previous slide. It is like if it will be the Sahaj one, there will be a very strong family history. Early onset will be there. The presentation will be like patient will be very lean and thin, and chances of complications, specifically to the complications which are related to degeneration, it will be high in these cases. And the other one, it will be a presentation where there will be all the signs of overnutrition. And these types of patients are usually are have to be treated with the strict diet restrictions and the medicines, and along with that other procedures which are indicated for cleaning of the body. Next. And there may be other presentation which will be again depending on whether it is a cough predominant, pit predominant, or vata predominant type of diabetes. Here also the patient will have various presentation and characteristics depending upon which of the dosh has strongly involved in the pathogenesis of the diabetes. Next. All these factors are to be considered, because when we are deciding the line of treatment, it will be also the factor like kapha, vata, and pitta, along with the other factors, and then what are the symptoms. Depending upon that, we will have to decide the drug, or there will be the line of treatment as per that. So this is also the same presentation, like whether it is a stool pramehi, or this is the classification which is being considered while deciding the management of the diabetes. That is the stool obese one or the non-obese diabetes. Next. Now, when we are talking about management of the diabetes, whether it is any treatment procedure either from the Ayurvedic point of view or modern point of view, the main thing is like we have to stop the underlying pathophysiology, and the main thing here, as we have said, it is something which has resulted into either beta cell dysfunction, or it has produced the insulin resistance. So this is the main line of treatment. And so next, as per Ayurveda, all the treatment, it is not mainly focused how to bring down the sugar level to the normal. It is also the other factors which are getting involved, or which is being responsible for the continuity of the pathogenesis are to be stopped. And when it is being stopped, then only there will be chances of reversing of the condition. Otherwise, what happens? We have seen many patients who are being diagnosed as diabetes. They are taking all the medicine, maybe all types of anti-diabetic drugs, anti-hyperglycemic drugs, but they are not at all considering the cause, which is the faulty diet and lifestyle. And so what happens as the time passes, the complications, the drug dependence, the increase of the drug dose, it goes on. And so when we are talking about the treatment of the diabetes, the first line of treatment always becomes the preventive approach. So preventive approach, as we have discussed, early diagnosis, early detection, and with that, we can start with the lifestyle management, or we can start with some changes in the lifestyle, and we can reverse the condition, and so we can prevent the diabetes. Secondly, it can be we can also screen out such persons who have got a very strong family history of the diabetes. So in those families, from the very beginning, how the child should be cared, what types of food habits, etc., should be typically given to these types of child, so that in future chances of going into the maturity onset diabetes, it can be reduced. This can also be taken as a preventive approach. And the third approach, it can be starting with some of the medicines which are called as the Rasayan in Ayurveda. Such Rasayan treatment which are specifically helping for increasing the metabolism, or they are helping for the increasing the sensitivity of the cells by decreasing the fat deposition in the body. It can be started, and that way we can start a preventive approach along with the avoidance of the positive factors and strong awareness among the society. And for that, whatever lifestyle modification in the form of Dincharya has been mentioned, which has to be made common in the society. And if the persons are following this with the good physical exercises as per the principles of Ayurveda, that is not too much or too less exercises as per the patient's input of the food and the constitution, it can be the first contribution of Ayurveda in the management and prevention of the diabetes. Next. Then there are many things which we call as the factors which increase the kapha or the fat inside the body. So if we reduce these things in our diet, there may be chances of controlling the pathogenesis of the diabetes. So lots of diet restriction is to be given along with the medicines in the patients who are already known cases of the diabetes, and those who are prone may be asked to continue these types of food or these types of diet articles either in the form of cereals like barley or yav is one of the best article or food article a person can be advised for in the cases of diabetes. Next, similarly, there is some choice of next pulses which can be given, like the masoor or the ulat, which is being some types of dal which are usually used in the Indian cuisines or the Indian food. Next, and then the other thing is that when the patients of diabetes come, we ask them to stop most of the foods, and they ask that if we don't eat mango, we don't eat banana, what are the fruits we have to eat? So there are list of foods which are being mentioned here, which the person can take, which will be not directly being responsible for fat or increase of sugar inside the body, like the pomegranate or the fruits of the bilb, that is Aglae marmelis, or jambu, that is the very common fruit which is available in particular season here, and amlaki. These types of things, they can be advised in the cases if the patient is already known or is taking the treatment of the diabetes. Next. And then there are certain vegetables which can be of choice when the patients are asking for the which types of vegetables. Specifically, we advise for all types of bitter gourd or the gourd which we use in the daily, cucumber, which are full of water and full of fibers, but they don't have any type of direct fat or the contents which will increase the puff or the meal inside the body. And or these vegetables, if they are to be taken, are not to be cooked in too much of oil. That is also to be advised to the patient. So along with the daily regimens, the diet, the restrictions, do's, and next the don'ts, the patient, if he is following properly, and then this is like various types of dry massage or the physical exercises in the form of walking, jogging, cycling, or many types of yoga postures. These, they may help together along with the restriction of diet in the fat control or weight control, and thus may help for the reversal of the diabetes mellitus. And this is the list which people usually don't like when we start talking about this, that you have to stop taking all these types of things. But specifically, the products of milk and the curd, and then all the food items which are being fermented, or they are bakery items, or contains lots of what we call fine wheat flour, or products which are coming from the bakery, or the sweet items, they are to be stopped completely during the treatment and even after the recovery from the cases of the diabetes. Next. And the food items which we discussed before, and the meat items which are to be restricted. So in short, next, it is like though diabetes, it is easy to control with some of the pills and the medicines which are available. But if we are starting with the good lifestyle, good habits, and good food and the food habits, we may be able to control the diabetes in a better way, and the chances of converting that diabetes into the complication, it will be less. So this type of awareness among the patient is also needed as per Ayurveda. And then if it is needed, the procedures which are being given in the form of Panchkarma procedures, that is nearly like various type of therapeutic emesis or basti, or it is like various type of virejan and snehan and swedan, depending upon the need of the patient, it will be given. It can be added along with this diet and diet restriction. And then there are many medicines in the form of single herbs or in the form of formulation which are being given. This may be together with the ongoing modern treatment for the diabetes, or it can be alone approach for the management of cases of the diabetes. Next. Next, Dr. And some of the very simple medicines are being mentioned here, which we are using very successfully in our OPDs, along with the modern drugs for the management of the diabetes. Next, and these are various preparations. Already, as Dr. Yogesh has discussed in his introduction of mine, it is like the standard treatment guidelines has been published by Ayush, and this is available. And so, what can be the protocol and what can be the treatment for the diabetes as per the stages and as per the condition of the diabetes is also available in that book. So we can conclude that from Ayurveda point of view, Prameya, it is a complex clinical disorder and it is coming due to some abnormal changes, abnormal maturation, resulting mainly due to the conditions of obesity and fat metabolism. And the clinical condition of Madhumeh is quite nearer to the presentation of obesity, metabolic syndrome, and ultimately coming out in the form of diabetes mellitus. Next. And furthermore, as per Ayurveda, all patients of diabetes are not similar, and so there is a need of individualized care for them. And as per the cause and the presentation, various types of dietary and lifestyle and herbal preparations can be prescribed to this patient. However, an integrative approach can help for the better prevention and of cases of diabetes. Next. Thank you. So this was a little bit of description, not so deep, but it is. Ayurveda has some disease related to diabetes have presented. So,
Thank you, ma'am, for a very nice, elaborate presentation, right from the causative factors to the management of diabetes as per Ayurvedic perspective. There is a question from a participant that please suggest Samprapti Vikatana Chikitsa, like any medicine specific to the pathogenesis and specific manifestations. Like, for example, if Nisha Haritra is indicated as the best for diabetes management, how it will work? That is the question, ma'am.
Yes. When we are talking this, I have just concluded with my slide that there is no specific drug as such to say this is the treatment of the diabetes in Ayurveda. And whatever drugs we are giving, they are not directly having any action on the reduction of the blood sugar. Though by breaking the pathogenesis, only what we were talking of, whatever is this extra fat or the clade or the arm, which has generated or which has initiated this pathogenesis, is presenting in the form of excessive urination with the ojo or with the glucose in the urine. So, as such, as per the Ayurveda, we may only say our drugs, they are having either kapha, medhar, kledhar actions, and with these actions plus the actions which help for the increasing of the metabolism and to check the overproduction of these types of mala or the dhatus inside the body, which is called as the ama dhatus, they are doing the Samprapti Vighatan. And when this is happening, ultimately because there will be no metabolites or there will be no fat, there will be changes in the urine filtration, and so we will find the changes in not in the symptoms, also the characteristics of the urine. Though from the modern point of view, we are now saying that this drug has got some anti-diabetic effect, but basically Samprapti Vighatan is done on this basis.
Yes. And there is another query. What is your opinion about Purva Rupa vis-a-vis pre-diabetes? Like we can diagnose pre-diabetes by assessing our Purva Rupa. What is the experience and what is your expert opinion?
Yes. See, I cannot say that in all cases of the diabetes who are going towards the diabetes will come with these presentations. We had done one survey in our institute few years back. It was not directly towards the pre-diabetes, but we were trying to trace out the persons having the presentation of the dyslipidemia. And so we took the references of Purva of Prameha and all the pictures which are developing just before the obesity, and that we have made a list. So in nearly 70% of cases, who were coming with the presentation of too much of feeling of fatigue or feeling of lethargy or feeling of increase of heaviness inside the body or feeling of low digestion or petulance and constipation. These all were indicating that the patient has started initially for the phases of the disturbed fat metabolism. So we try to make out a questionnaire based on these findings. And also now, last year only we had worked with the cases where we tried to see pre-diabetic cases. So we had taken these symptoms as a base, and we have done the GTT and all the other parameters. So we could say that in many of the cases who are presenting with this, there are possibilities of either dyslipidemia or towards the stage of pre-diabetes.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. We will take one last query. Like, what is the importance of Shodhana, Shamana, and Medohar Aushadha Deepana Pachana in management of diabetes and at which stage? Like, as we have mentioned, I think it's clear that Shodhana is indicated in Kapha, and Deepan Pachan also works on that. And Shamana is also given for Krusha Pramehi particularly. So, can you share some experience that is a participant's query?
See, when we are specifically talking from Ayurveda point of view, the disease is managed as per the Rogabal and Yogibal. This is our very basic thinking for starting of any treatment. So when you want Deepan Pachan, you have to understand if the patient has got like full of arm lakshan, presenting with the arm, then you have to start the treatment with the Deepan Pachan, because without Deepan Pachan, whatever drugs you are going to give, it will be not effective. So it is totally based on when the person is coming to you, what are his chief complaints, what are his associated complaints, what are his positive factors. You have to take a very strong history of the patient, and then you can find out what actually has initiated the pathogenesis in this case. And if it is arm avastha, the early stage, and the patient is still with the Nidan or is still continuing with all these Nidan, Langana Deepan Pachan will become the first line of treatment. And if along with that, if you want that without Shodhan, without cleaning, you cannot get the results very quick. Patient is free from complication. He has no other associated conditions where Shodhan is contraindicated. I think so it is a very good chance you can first perform Virechan or a Basti and then start with the line of treatment. This is the second thing. And Shaman is right. If the patient is in the early stage, not with complications, and patient will be reversed with the only Nidan Parivarjan and some oral treatment, you can only go for the Shaman treatment. I think so. This is very basic for any one who is practicing Ayurveda.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Vijaya Pandit, who is a pharmacologist, she has asked a question that can you please elaborate individualization of treatment in diabetes and what is acute and chronic diabetes? Can focus as per Ayurvedic perspective.
See, again, like I was trying to show you the slides with the Ayurveda references, and there will be no direct terms like acute or chronic, but how long the person is being suffering from, depending on and how strong are the symptoms. It will be the acute phase of the Madhumeh or acute phases of the Prameha. And if it has gone beyond 6 months or 1 year, usually we take it as a chronic condition of any of the disease. So when the patient has crossed that period and from all this 1 year he has been suffering from the diabetes condition, we will take it towards the chronic. And when it is chronic, as per our science, it needs more effort, it needs more strong thinking of the pathogenesis of the disease. Itself it is indicating because it is going towards the progressive case, it needs a extra care. And so, starting from whether he or she needs a concomitant treatment first, or he or she needs just to start with some of the drugs for the diabetes, or there are certain drugs in the form what we call as rasayan. Rasayan means those drugs which will help to rejuvenate the structures which are getting involved in the pathogenesis of the diabetes are to be put. And so, accordingly to the number of months or the days and the presentation, it may be taken as the acute or the chronic phases of the diabetes from Ayurvedic point of view. And talking about the personalized, it is again repeatedly I'm saying every person with the diabetes will go have a common presentation of hyperglycemia or glycosuria, but right from his positive factor till the presentation symptoms, it will vary depending upon his habitat or his triple P or genetic predisposition, etc. These are to be thought in, and then there is list of medicine, more than 30 or 40 medicines in the form of either formulation and simple that we decide as per the need or the condition of the person.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for elaborate answers also. Going further, we have our next speaker, Dr. Vaishali Chetan Deshmukh. She has done EMD DNB with gold medal and DM endocrinology. She is the first female endocrinologist in city of Pune. She is assistant professor in endocrinology at Sassoon Hospital and consultant and head of endocrinology at Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital, Deshmukh Clinic and Research Center, and at Ruby Hall Clinic, Pune. She is the principal investigator in 60 phase 2, 3 and 4 trials in diabetes and endocrinology. She is the chief medical investigator on award-winning project by Government of India CSIR on drug compliance monitoring. National and international faculty, she has numerous publications and vast teaching experience. She is also mentor for premarital and preconceptional hormonal counseling for females under the Asmita Movement for Girl Child. She is mentor for Pune region for prevention of diabetes in women program run by WENDI. She is director of Wellness of Women and secretary of SPARE Pune. We are blessed to have you with us, ma'am. I would like to request Dr. Vaishali Deshmukh, ma'am, to share her views on the topic need of integration in diabetes management.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for that very kind introduction. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I'll just see if I can portray my presentation. I'll share with that.
Please.
Yeah. Is my presentation visible?
It is.
Okay, so let me thank the Irsha Group and Dr. Supriya Bhalerao for inviting me here today. It's the first time I am speaking on an integrated forum, so I'm glad to be here. It is also my pleasure to be with our ESI President, Dr. Ganpati, who has been, I think it's his first day of his presidency today, and it's my honor. I know him as a very knowledgeable person and a very humble human being. And it's my honor to share the forum with eminent dignitaries on the stage. So I thank Irsha for giving me this opportunity, and welcome Dr. Ganpati also. Nice to see you here. So I am here to actually focus on the integrated management of diabetes. Like we know that diabetes is a disorder which has multiple pathophysiologic defects and multiple reasons why we should be tackling in a different fashion every individual. And I'm sure that Ayurveda mentions that there is a need for individualization of every diabetic therapy. We heard a very nice lecture from our previous madam, and I think that is true even as far as allopathy is considered. I'll be taking you through this presentation as to how we look at integration of therapeutics in diabetes and pathophysiology and subjective nature of diabetes. We all know that it is different. Diabetes is different for every person. It's not the same. There is a lot of unmet need in diabetes management. That's why we see maximum doctor shopping, maximum door-to-door movement of diabetic patients. no diabetic patient is, you can say, 100% satisfied with one particular doctor. Then if you see the role of stress and inflammation, then what we call as diabetes stress and mind health has a lot of role to play in diabetes. So when you talk about so many subjective things in diabetes, there is a need of an integrative approach. And unfortunately, the current status of integrative medicine in India is not really very good to look upon. And so this entity of complementary and alternative medicine has come up in a bigger way globally. It is, I'm sure it is catching its roots in India. And this works best as a holistic modality for all the non-communicable disease. What is the evidence from literature? Are there any risks involved? What is our experience? Is there any food for thought that we can carry with our presentation today? And I'm glad that somehow Dr. Supriya has been involved with us, and we have been able to actually think on the same lines in the past few months. We are trying to boil down to some integrative sort of approach to treating our patients, and I'm sure it will work better in the coming future. So I'll summarize this in this aspect. So when we are talking about disease, any disease for any pathy, we are talking about dis-ease. Where ease is gone, that is the time a patient has disease. So our purpose of therapeutics is easing the patient. So whether the easing is by which pathy is unimportant. The patient should finally land into a stage where there is a level of ease. And if you see the pathophysiology of diabetes, you see multiple organs being involved, right from the gut, the food, the brain, and if you see that the brain works like a master controller of all the organs involved in diabetes management. And autonomic system has a big role to play in control of appetite, control of hormone secretion, and all these, what you can say, the organs are under a very regulated, structured sort of a program in the body. So when we are talking about blood glucose control, are we only talking about metabolic control or controlling these from the roots of what abnormalities are seen in these diseases? That is the question. So diabetes is known to have a major effect on the quality of life. You see, not only it is the physical health, but emotional well-being, the finances, the leisure activity, work and studies, and of course relationships. So all these need a lot of attention beyond glycemic control. And then what we realize that as a treating doctor, we are not able to give a complete cure or complete control of all these situations. So and of course, there are a lot of emotional turmoils which come up with diabetes, and we know that emotions are directly linked with various disorders. So whether it is repressed anger, anxiety, or use a lot of terminologies like insulin rage, diabetic distress, depression coming in context to diabetes management, and all these emotions have a significant impact on all the non-communicable diseases. So I think we can't see diabetes in a single frame saying that this is a glycemic disorder without tackling all these issues which are involved in diabetes. So I think diabetes becomes a very complex disease when we want to understand it holistically. So if you see the unmet need, we know that it is a behavioral disorder, it's a lifestyle disorder, and it's a disorder of the genetics, of the makeup of the person. So health behavior is a mind-driven activity. Now, how I came into this whole picture was because I was fascinated by this idea that the mind can control your sugar so well or can affect your sugar so differently. So when we went into the depth, and my mentor, Dr. Sanjay Phadke, who is a psychiatrist by himself, we had discussions and topics, and we realized that every bodily disease has a brain or a mind behind it. And when we talk of diabetes as a neuroendocrine or an inflammatory disorder, we know that there is something which we are missing out when we are talking of only glycemic control. So if you see the various pathies deal with diabetes, they deal with diabetes in this sense. So everybody sees it through a different angle. Probably we are not able to correlate and compile it together to have a complete picture and a complete, you can say, the holistic sort of of diabetes. So brain as an endocrine organ has been known in the past, but it is the most neglected endocrine organ. So that is how we actually came to mind health as a primary focus when we started with complementary activities in diabetes, and we realized that doing mind-body workshops and focusing on mental health and helping mental health through various means, whether it is through counseling or homeopathy or through various other Ayurvedic techniques or even simple lifestyle modification changes or behavior modification therapies. It did help in a lot of control of diabetic patients. This was clinical experience of all the team members who are currently working in this concept. So I'm sure all of you agree that there is a lot of role to play in controlling the psychology of the patient as far as diabetes is considered. So then we know that diabetes has a lot of metabolic stress, inflammation, and a lot of psychological disturbances associated. So we do get these examples in day-to-day life. You can see that you have patients who have high sugars in spite of following a very stringent diet, a very excessive diet and excessive exercise, and still you find that the sugars are not under good control. Then in type 1 diabetes, we are telling our patients that you have to be on insulin, you have to get control, but still there are non-compliance issues. There are patients who keep on getting admitted with repeated ketoacidosis and still don't want to be compliant to therapy because of a lot of neglect issues. And chronic pain is a big problem in even good diabetic patients. So where there is a good control, the pain and perception of that pain is a big problem, which we really have not found any answer to. So it may be chronic fatigue-like syndrome or what, we don't know. But there are sleep disturbances, and adherence to protocols are very much mind-driven. Adherence to diet, exercise, eating behaviors, stress of work pressures worsens sugar. And we found that comorbidities like blood pressure and heart disease are especially very common when depression is associated. So depression becomes a very common comorbidity. In fact, literature says that 40% of diabetic patients, especially women, have depression as a very common happening. And this is the most neglected complication also for diabetes. Then quality of life and happiness quotient is very low in spite of having a very good control. You see, patients have a perfect HbA1c and perfect sugar, but they are not at all happy. So finally, it is what a person calls as health and how we are tackling this in a complete sense. And then the role of mind-body medicine, which has now come. So there are actually 3 types of medicines, you can say. Complementary medicine, then you have the alternative medicine. So complementary medicine is the one which complements whichever, whether it is Ayurvedic, whether it is homeopathy or it's allopathy. It is going to complement all the 3 pathies. And then you have the alternative therapy. So if you have something like patients taking Ayurveda or taking homeopathy or taking allopathy, that is the alternative medicine. And then allopathy is labeled as a modern medicine and traditional medicine, or you can say conventional medicine that we know of. But actually, if you find that there is no foolproof pathy, so even each of these pathies have a lot of loopholes in their own senses. And then we have to actually make the best. If I can exemplify, if you see a mango tree, मराठीत सांगायचं झालं तर पायरी हा जो आंबा असतो म्हणजे पायरीच्या झाडावरती हापूसचं कलम होतं म्हणजे आय डोंट नो हाऊ टू पुट इट इन इंग्लिश बट हापूस मँगो ट्री on a pyri tree because you have to get best of both the trees to get a good fruit. So finally, it was seen that integration of all these medicines together is a need when we are talking about chronic non-communicable diseases, and it's high time that we all understand this, that integration is what is needed, integration in the right way without causing any harm to the patient and without actually, in fact, educating the patient on these aspects of integrated medicine is a need of the hour. So when we come to mind-body medicine, we began with this in 2009 onwards, and we realized that this mind-body medicine techniques are actually evidence-based. They are participatory, so they have to have active participation, and they are very affordable. They are easy to do. They can be done at home, and they are scalable. So you can actually teach the patient and ask them to do it on regular basis. It is actually combining the power of traditional yoga, modern psychology and medicine applicability. So it is a combined, again, it's an integrated medicine which focuses on improvement of mind health. I'm sure that people from the US are very familiar with this terminology, but definitely there are a lot of centers now which are promoting the right use of mind-body medicine, and it is coming in a bigger way in India also. So how do these therapies work? So basically they work through decreasing the activation of the sympathoadrenal axis, then improving the vagal stimulation, then improving the brain structures and neurochemical system, and the positive changes in the what we call as neuroplasticity is improved like yoga does. and then improvement of the metabolic profile and the physical functioning. So in total, if you see, there is a more comprehensive control of many more elements along with the glycemic control when we are dealing with something like this kind of therapies. So why is integrative approach necessary? Because all your lifestyle disorders actually have three components. One is behavioral component, which definitely needs a change. Then you have actual substance of treating that particular pathy. And then you have a complementary pathy, which actually aids for all the pathies. So when you integrate all these things together, that is the time when your diabetic patients are really going to benefit it, whatever knowledge and justification that we have to offer to them. So integrated medicine is the upcoming need of our, and that is why we can see that non-communicable diseases are really not under complete control over past few years that we have come across. So this has been the global data which shows that integrative health practices like acupressure, biofeedback, guided imagery, meditation, qigong and yoga, and even cognitive behavioral therapy, which is allopathic psychology technique. All these have known to help in smoking cessation, high blood pressure, obesity, physical activity, stress reduction, depression, and blood glucose control in all these disorders. So what I want to mention here is that these can be an aid to all the pathies. You need not decide on which pathy treatment you want to offer your patient, but you can definitely offer these integrated health practices because they are free, they are easy, they can be done by the patient, and they will improve the quality of life and the glycemic status of the patient. So what is the current status in India? So currently we are focusing on the integrative medicine techniques, and this has a preview that most of the conditions are driven and 10% is the role of your genetics. When you control the behavior and the biology of the brain, you are changing most of the energy centers. You're trying to achieve a harmony internally as well as externally. And then you're improving the mind-body coordination, because finally your hypothalamus is your complete regulator. And when you are controlling this through the mind control, you're achieving more and giving more positive sort of energy to the body. So, of course, there are huge challenges when we are talking about complementary medicine, because initially when I started this, like most of my colleagues or my own allopathic friends also said that these are not our works. So there is a more of a negative notion about complementary and alternative medicine in India. So there is a need to understand that it is a job of every healer, whether it's a pathy healer or it's a non-pathy healer, to understand that integration is a need. Secondly, there is a skewed beliefs of HCP. So if you talk about skewed beliefs, each one feels that his pathy or her pathy is foolproof. So a person who is treating with allopathy feels that no, my medicine is the best and patient should not be taking the rest. But I feel that the best of all pathies has to be integrated, and you have to be very liberal to all the pathies. Then we started, fortunately, at our center at Dinanath, we have all these departments, and we do have a good amount of integration of all the pathies together. Then education of the patient. Now patients are also not very well educated as far as the integration of medicine is considered. So we need to explain that you need to focus as mind health as a prime sort of a basic, like you give lifestyle guidance, like you give exercise, you have to focus on mind health also. And this has to be a base of the trial when we are treating diabetic patients. So most of our patients are also not very well aware. Then risk of combined therapy. This is a major problem without evidence of safety. So we see a lot of patients taking all the pathies together without none of the doctors knowing what is the benefit or what is the drawback of combining these drugs. So there is a lot of research to be done into how safely and how beneficially can we combine the benefits of these pathies together and still offer the patient the benefit of therapy and not cause any harm to the patient. So this is a major risk, and there is a lot of research to be carried forward in this direction. And of course, you see a lot of ethics committee, institutional committees and many other committees which are very skeptical on getting this integrated. So most of my studies where we have tried and integrated, the EC has come back that this is not our preview, or wherever it is a part, not a part of XYZ pathy. So there is a need that you have a separate body who deals with integrated medicine as total in terms of research, in terms of treatment. And the need of integrative medicine team is a very important team when we are thinking of diabetes. So a diabetes team, fortunately that we have a team of all the pathies coming together, including psychological counselor, including dietitian and many more things. And we are privileged to have these in bigger institution. And I think this is a need. And if we can overcome or at least take a step towards progressing towards getting rid of these challenges, I think we have achieved a lot in the bargain. So even we can try and convert the negative notion into a neutral or a positive notion. I think we have done a lot of benefit in the future. So what is the evidence in literature? So glad that this article has come this year in the NEJM, and it's allopathic authors from the institutes all over which have focused that there is going to be a new era on mind-body medicine, which will actually promote a pro-social behavior, positive emotional health. And this is what they are focusing for health professionals, the stress management and resiliency training program for healthcare professionals, because doctor burnout and doctor's mental health matters a lot to the patient's mental health. And we are in a position where we can start implementing these techniques for our patients in the long run. So we have a literature support, and now the world recognizes this as an important thing to be done. These are the global mind-body interventions done all throughout. So these are complementary. I'm not going to speak on any pathy as such, but I can just focus on complementary health approaches currently which are being used worldwide. So natural products, we heard from madam that XYZ fruit and XYZ vegetable is good for diabetes. So there are a lot of natural products which have a lot of benefits in terms of diabetes, like you have methi, like I'm sure Supriya madam will agree that haldi, methi, jambul and all these things are known to have diabetic benefits, and we can do a lot of research and studies in this proof of concept, and these can be used as complementary treatments along with allopathic and other pathy medicines. Then you have a lot of deep breathing techniques and practitioners using massage and meditative techniques and special diets which are now focusing on progressive relaxation, and guided imagery are also certain psychological techniques which do help in these patients. But what is important is you at least try and implement one type of complementary health technique for a suitable for your patient when we are thinking of treating with diabetes. We fortunately are a yoga capital, so we have a lot of data on yoga and diabetes and HRV and autonomic dysfunction, and I think we are blessed to have a lot of data on that. But unfortunately, from the allopathic perspective, we have very less integrated data on how yoga helps XYZ parameters in allopathy, how does it work for complications and many other things. So this is what we need to understand. So a lot of data on yoga and cardiac autonomic function is available in India. There is a lot of literature again on the psychological outcome and BMI and metabolic parameters and psychosocial and anxiety related features in patients with diabetes and yoga. And I'm sure Dr. Ganpati must be well versed with the NIMHANS projects in Bangalore, and all of you must be aware that NIMHANS does a lot of research with mind health and MRI techniques. So this has been a yoga intervention for type 2 diabetes risk reduction. So it is not only that we are trying to treat diabetes and help diabetes, we are also trying to prevent diabetes by using these techniques. So unfortunately, we don't have much of data in integration for therapeutics. So how homeopathy with allopathy or Ayurvedic with allopathy works for prevention, for treatment, is what we need to actually generate, and we can actually have lot of scope of work in integration when we think and agree. No particular pathy is foolproof, and we have to be doing safe work and more evidence-based work on this concept. So this is the yogic care. So which are the research areas which actually are more benefited with integrated approaches? Chronic pain is an area, quality of life, then symptom relief. So a lot of symptom reliefs are better achieved with these techniques. Then behavioral issues like appetite disorders, obesity, nutritional control, cravings, then bulimia, anorexia, all these things can be controlled better. Compliance to therapy and adherence and inertia from the patient side, and comorbidities. So associated comorbidities like blood pressure can be controlled with these. then there is lot of research which is going on in the world on immunologic and cardiac biomarkers with complementary therapies. And as I mentioned, we ourselves are having lot of data in Pune from Dr. Fadke and team on heart rate variability and stress management, wound healing in diabetes, then adherence to self-management techniques and functional MRI changes in patients who are practicing these techniques is a very research area. And you can see that currently globally this is supposed to be the most happening area in research overall. So what about our experience? So I am not the right person to talk on this issue of integration because I've not really started integration, but we began with mind-body interventions and we thought that they are non-invasive, they are not going to harm the patient. So we started with that and we realized there are a lot of barriers when we started with this. So first of all, patients need a lot of counseling. They have the lack of knowledge to understand and know about the mental health importance in diabetes. So it took a lot of effort to start talking to patients. Then the major problem was to educate them and to identify how to screen them. So what we did was we designed a 10-point questionnaire saying that if the patient ticks all those, we can assess some parameters of mental health, like do you sleep well, do you eat well, do you feel happy, do you feel depressed. So it was a simple questionnaire which the patient could fill in a minute. And then we realized that we could develop certain screening tools for our own self and identify ways to address which kind of patients require proper psychiatric consult or who benefit with these therapies. And we really don't have integrated medicine specialists in India or even globally for that matter. But if you can really start a team or a unit where you have these integrated practices, I think this will coordinate the care better for both ways, for the patient as well as referral of this to the right team. So we began with patient workshops. Positive psychology propagation was the aim. The aim was to reduce allostatic load and improve the resilience. And then we started this mind-body clinic. And first time we did a mind-body conference for allopaths. And this was to focus on the importance of how mind health matters to chronic disease. And I'm sure all of you must have attended this in February 2020. And I think it helped us a lot even during the COVID lockdown period. So these were the workshops done by our society. This was one in Munich, which was done for yoga trainers. This was in Niemann's, Bangalore, where we had done it for a group of yoga teachers and psychiatrists. And this was the one which was done in Pune. And this was, if Dr. Ganpati is there, the ESI was very active in, it was actually a great thing that ESI could agree to host this kind of a conference and believe and have that confidence in me to give this opportunity to us. So it was well attended by nearly 1,000 allopaths of eminent repute and it was well appreciated otherwise. So we have a lot of food for thought. So why not have an integrative medicine, randomized controlled trials or research evidence, like which say something like metformin with Triphala, which is given for obesity, then mind-body interventions in various non-communicable diseases. Then it's said that Karlacha Rasani diabetes kami hoto, but have we really tried this with our complementing this with allopathy and really seeing what happens in terms of side effect profile or benefit profile in terms of biomarkers? And why not have a team of doctors or scientists who believe that holistic and integrative medicine is required and have these people working in collaboration, and why not educate patients to follow the beneficial principles of all pathies rather than telling the patient that this is good and that is bad and this is not really good. And why not design behavioral modification studies for patients with chronic lifestyle disorders? So why shouldn't it be a regular prescription for every chronic lifestyle patient? Why not target a root cause of the NCD rather than treating only superficially with glycemic control? And working on mind medicines of all pathies, like stress control is important for everything. Now stress control has important therapeutic strategy in allopathy, in Ayurvedic, in homeopathy. Not use all those together for helping the stress of the patient. So I think there are a lot of questions which are unanswered, and it's a lot of food for thought for people who are really interested in this sector. We have a lot of activities which are planned in future. We have actually started at our clinics the mind health assessment. We are trying to define what is the role. We have tried and we are trying to protocolize how mind health can be prescribed to a patient with diabetes. We have started with community outreach programs to oncology, cardiology, neurology, where mind health matters a lot, and overcoming this problem of inertia and actually not thinking in the sense that this is not my cup of tea and this is not my role as an allopath. So I think it's a high time that we try and think more on this and educate more on this. And at the national level, we need a lot of collaboration of integrative medicine, lot of research with the major, you can say, centers to have prevention, both primordial and primary and secondary, beyond yoga, because I think yoga is the most studied, but unfortunately yoga with allopathy is also less studied. So that is also a sector where it can be structurally studied. And to summarize this, there is no pathy which is good or bad. There is a need of the hour to integrate the whole approach to help chronic diseases in a positive manner. Stress is an inevitable part, and various mind-body techniques have actually helped and they have added benefits to improve the control. Misperception of integrative medicine is actually as it is not doable and it is not our job and it is complicated, but it's a misperception. So it should be actually forming a way of our life, and one needs to understand at all our ends that one size doesn't fit all. So what may be good for one may not fit the other. So you need to take it accordingly, and the final aim is to promote well-being, metabolic fitness, and improve mood, sleep, and quality of life. So just to end, knowledge is proud that he has learned so much, and wisdom is humble that he knows no more. So this is what is very important to be understood. And lastly, to our diabetic patients, I would say that living with diabetes need not necessarily mean suffering from diabetes. While pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So I think that's all that I have to say, and thank you for the patient listening.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your elaborate presentation and actually open-minded views about Ayurveda research and integrative approach. There are a few questions, like a lot of research on herbal medicines for diabetes going on in India. So somehow it does not reach to endocrinologists or allopathics. How can it be translated in clinical practice for a better management?
Yes, so basically we as allopaths, we follow a phase of clinical trials. So I'm sure that if these herbal medicines follow the same principles of clinical trials, following with healthy volunteers, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, I'm sure we all will be open to do it. So there will be no hitch in doing this kind of a protocol and trying in our patients. Once we are sure that, see, in any pathy for that matter, and more so with us, we have been taught that you don't know harm. So unless I'm not sure that this drug is safe, I will not use it in my patient. So I need to see a pilot data with a healthy volunteer, with a disease volunteer, then with a proper randomized control trial. So when you're coming to me as a allopath, I need to have this data. Then I will be confident enough to start using it in my patient, and then I which is to use whichever drug. So we are doing a lot of clinical trials with a lot of drugs. We will do the same with your products also.
Yes, ma'am. There is one more query. What are the expectations as endocrinologists from herbal drug research to combine as therapy with available allopathic drug treatment? I think you have answered this question. We need to have some phase-wise clinical trials on the drugs. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Going further in this session. It's our honor to have Dr. Ganpati Bantwal as guest of honor, who has been elected and joined as President, Endocrine Society of India. We congratulate you, sir, for this and wish the best for your future. Dr. Ganpati is a Professor and Head, Department of Endocrinology at St. John's Medical College, Bangalore. He is Treasurer of Karnataka Endocrine Society, past Secretary of Endocrine Society of India, and past Vice President Vice President, Endocrine Society of India. He has more than 90 research publications in national and international peer-reviewed journals to his credit. He is the principal investigator of more than 80 clinical trials and has been awarded by many awards. I request you, sir, to deliver a special note on management of diabetes for better healthcare system. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind introduction. Thank you, Vaishya. To Dr. Supriya Bhalerao. I am honored to be in this meeting on need for integration in diabetes management. So like the COVID-19 pandemic, we are also now facing a diabetic pandemic. Now, as of 2020, we are having at least 8 million people living with diabetes, and another 100 million people are having pre-diabetes. Majority of them who will develop diabetic. So that means we have a doubling of the rates. And the projection is around 145 for 2045. So as you know, this is a silent killer, can affect every organ which is present. So if you see, Ayurveda have had a major role as early as the 4th or the 5th century BC. Sushruta and the Charaka group, they have identified diabetes. In fact, then itself, they described 2 types of diabetes. One was type 1 who were young, lean, they were losing a lot of weight. And the type 2 who were obese. And they at that time also described that, yes, if you eat less for them, give them a low diet, a low calorie diet, they could actually become better. So the thoughts were there then itself. But then now what's happening, we are following a westernized type of diet. We are following what is known as a fast food culture. And hence we are seeing a lot of patients are becoming obese. They are becoming diabetic. And as Dr. Vaishali has already told, there's a lot of stress, physical activity is decreased. We are doing a lot of sitting jobs. Sitting job is equivalent to like smoking. So if you sit for a long time, you must get up after say 45 minutes or 60 minutes, do some stretches and come back. Otherwise, it's as bad as smoking. So I think we should revive back to our old traditional way of eating, like eating more of whole grains, avoid refined carbohydrates like foods which are digested fast, eat food which are having a low glycemic index, avoid juices, pastries, the bakery items, which has already been told by the previous speaker. So I think we should start doing this. And coming to the physical activity, I think we should begin by, say, not using the lifts, start using the stairs. You can also say, if you're traveling in a bus, don't get up at the last stop in front of your house. Go back. You can get down at least one stop behind, walk that distance. So by which, similarly, if you are using computers, you can actually stand and do. So when you are standing, you are doing what is known as a non-exercise adaptive thermogenesis, which is burning calories rather than a sitting job. So I tell many of them do that. And and stress relief also. So stress relief, you can actually you see that you get a good sleep, avoid using mobiles, because this is one of the main factor for less sleep. If you miss out a sleep even for a single day, the glucose can increase the next day itself. So such is the importance of sleep. And finally, last but not the least, prevention is very important. Now, how do you prevent? It begins with primordial prevention. So primordial prevention, in the sense, see that the patient, we reduce the number of gestational diabetics, because the children born of gestational diabetics are at high risk for developing obesity and finally diabetes. So that's a very bad thing. Second thing, prevent childhood obesity. So that's very, very important, because they are the ones who track into adults as obese, and obesity in turn leads to diabetes and its complications. So I will say that you should begin with this prevention. And I think we could integrate all these things like as has been highlighted by the previous speakers. So if you integrate, come back to our original ones, what we have followed from times immemorial, I think we could reduce this epidemic or the pandemic of obesity and type 2 diabetes. I think with this I will end. I would like to thank again once again Dr. Supriya Bhalerao and the team for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much, sir, for a precise note on diabetes management and need of integration through allopathy and Ayurveda systems of medicine. Further, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Anup Thakur, sir. It's an occasion of great pleasure and pride for us that recently, on National Ayurveda Day, our Honorable PM Modi ji dedicated the first Institute of National Importance in Ayurveda, ITRA, to the nation. We are blessed to have Professor Dr. Anup Thakur, sir, Founder Director, ITRA, with us to deliver special note. We congratulate you, sir, and wish that ITRA will grow by leaps and bounds under your leadership. I request you to share a special note on Ayurveda and diabetes through your expert views. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Yogesh, for a very nice introduction, and thank you for congratulations. Since the beginning with us, Bantwalji, Dr. Vaishi, Dr. Mandir, Dr. was there, joined, and then she left for organizing this program and doing all this very nice going on the diabetes mellitus, and not many aspects are coming up. Actually, originally, Dr. Vasisht thought what he floated 10 years back about the sword and shield, that is coming up, actually, integration of the system. It is very much required, it seems, by the deliberations, that it is very useful. Actually, diabetes, if we understand control, because a modern system of medicine is trying to understand diabetes by only the insulin and its functions and the chemical control of all these things, where the Ayurveda tries to understand and explain the diabetes in very broad spectrum. Very lately, in the modern system of medicine, they came to know that obesity and the fat has the bigger role to play in the manifestation of the diabetes. Well, the Ayurveda 2000 years back, it says that fat is the fat metabolism is responsible for the cause of the diabetes, impairment of the fat metabolism. It need to be many things need to be integrated, particularly for Ayurveda. Only treatment or the drugs is not the treatment. What is happening right nowadays, that on the name of the integration, that we are giving methi or we are giving that jamun, or other drugs, we include them, and that's the all. No, actually, Ayurveda is not about the drugs. Drug is a very meager and smaller part of it. Actually, nowadays, whatever inventions are being, new inventions and new theories are coming, they all support the theory of Ayurveda. Actually, like if you say the Nidan of the diabetes mellitus described in the Ayurveda, like Asya Sukham, Sapna Sukham, just Dr. Ganpati said that sitting is a very risky thing and very dangerous. So Asya Sukham, that is first has mentioned as a cause of the diabetes. Same way, still nobody is focusing on it, like everybody is focusing on the fat. But one of the Nidan is a Gramyodak, means Gramyodak, a type of water. And clay is an important, factor in the manifestation of the diabetes. So some kind of water also may be causing the diabetes. Intake of water particular kind of water also may cause. So tomorrow the research may come. So lot many things we have to see. Even it has been told that for the treatment of the diabetes, to the patient of the diabetes, you have to give the barley first to the horse. Barley will come in the stool of the horse, you collect it and give it to the patient, and that is very effective. We have started the project with that. So those kind of studies we have to go for. Shushruta says that who walks for 100 yojan, 100 yojan, his diabetes vanishes. Means, he is cured from the diabetes. Now 1 yojan is equal to 8 miles approx, and according to that, if you go for 100 yojan, that means it is 800 miles, or you can say roughly 1200 something or 1300 kilometers. So Shushruta says if somebody walks 1300 kilometers, then he will get relief from the diabetes. So this kind of things we need to do the studies, and of course drugs are also important part, but we should focus on all these things that can help a lot to the society. And if we can focus on the lifestyle of the people, because it is that its diabetes is going to cause a havoc for the country. So we should think and we should focus on the correction of the lifestyle. If we can do that thing, we can prevent it. Because stress, of course, is, as Vaishali madam said, that it's a major factor, but at the other side of the coin, if you see, you cannot stress. Stress is a part of life nowadays. But now we need to learn how to manage it. A simple making a habit of walking can also bust a stress or control the stress. So those kind of things in the lifestyle we need to improve. Taking curd, taking milk, particular kind of milk also may be causing a problem. So we need to come up with the studies, and is required of Ayurveda, yoga, and concurrent system of the modern system of the medicine. Then it can provide a very good solution to the society. Actually, in my opinion, the pathy or any system of medicine is not important. Important is a human being and human life. So to save it, to protect it, and to serve it well, whatever we can provide or we can integrate, that is the best thing can happen. So integration can be the best solution to the mankind. Actually, our Honorable PM Narendra Modi is visualizing of integration by 2030, and already he has started to work on that line, and I think that is the future of the medicine.
Thank you so much, sir, for your blessings and the address. I think ITRA will be the best platform to start the integrated trials and research projects, as we have this IPGTRA has the glory of research works in the history of Ayurveda. So going further, coming to the last part of the session, I request Dr. Gopal Vasisthar, rheumatologist and project director, Orlando, USA, who has gifted this Charak Samhita new edition to the globe with his passionate vision to serve society. He has coined the term Symbio Health a long back, before 13 years, in his article Symbio Health, Need of the Hour, which utilizes both the systems, Ayurveda and allopathy, to establish a better healthcare system. I request you, sir, to share your views and conclude the session with your remarks.
Thank you, Yogesh. I feel enriched listening to Dr. Mandeep Goyal, Dr. Vaishali, and Dr. Ganpati. They have given some balanced views. I remember when I was in medical school in early 60s, diabetes, I was taught, was a carbohydrate, metabolic disorder. And also, at that time, mind and body were two separate entities. They were not together. And things have changed now dramatically. And this is happening because of sharing of knowledge, open-mindedness. And this I realized after practicing for a few years, and I practiced as a rheumatologist, and I realized that the patients were starting to get better when I started using some of the things of Dincharya that I advised to patients and self-massage. And I found out these methodologies described in Ayurveda were very useful, and dose of medication started to come down, and some of the people went into remission. Usually people do get into remission spontaneously also, but this was much more out of proportion that took place. And I continued to use, and that is what stimulated me to start this Symbio Health. And this Symbio Health is something which I find is very specific. You know, integration, alternative medicine, or those are very vague. And Dr. Vaishali has described it very well, actually. And I'm glad these kind of things are happening. This, I describe it as offense and defense. Any war, any sports, any business, you have to have a strategy for defense and offense. If you don't have both, you don't win championship games at all. And similarly, identification of the defense strategy and offense strategy. Dr. Mandeep Goyal very well described the defense strategies in diabetes, and Dr. Vaishali described both of them. And it is something very nice to hear. It is the mindset of we modern medicine doctors that we consider superior, and that is why we are obstinate, most of the people, not using the Ayurvedic system. But anyway, I think this should come forward, and this Symbio Health phenomenon should be used in such a way that it provides cost-effective, also better medicine, better treatment of people. That's all what I have to say. And I congratulate Supriya Bhalerao for doing this, thinking about it. We should have these on a regular basis involving diseases one by one, and these should be put to use by people. They can go on the internet and go on and listen to Dr. Mandeep Goyal's talk and Dr. Vaishali's talk. That should be a very important help. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your precise note. At the end of this session and beginning of new thought process pondered by our speakers, I would like to thank all speakers, Dr. Mandeep ma'am, Dr. Vaishali ma'am, Dr. Ganpati sir, our directors, Dr. Gopal Vasisht sir and Dr. Professor Anup Thakur sir. Our team, Dr. Anish, Dr. Aniga, Sandeep Bhai, Jaideep Bhai, Team Obesity Diabetes Lab, Irsha, led by Dr. Supriya Bhalerao, and Dr. Poonam Gupte for her continuous efforts in organizing this session. At last, I thank all participants, researchers, scholars who utilize the concepts in practice and make this event successful. The talks will be made available on our YouTube channel shortly. Thank you one and all. Thank you so much.